Hey everybody, what's good? Welcome back to the Next Move podcast. And if this is your first time on the show, we're a podcast that shares the strategies, stories, and tools behind people who are making an impact in their fields. So today's a little bit of a different one. I've just finished 30 interviews. I'm going to do a video on what I've learned from these 30 different interviews with incredible people like Shamal, Captain Raghu Raman, Arman Sood, so many of these incredible people that I've had the chance to learn from these podcasts. And that's probably been, the greatest thing for me, as well as being able to share this with you, but also just taking the learning from these people. And there's been 5 major things that I feel that I've learned so far. I've learned many more, but here are the top 5. So the first major learning that I've had from this podcast is the idea of focus. And I've learned this from many people I've interviewed, but specifically Captain Raghu Raman. And I'm going to put that video in the information box above because it was a great one. But he talked about the idea of focusing on one thing and then moving to the next. And he used this analogy of hitting nails on a table. If you have all these nails on a table and you just hit one at a time, nothing will ever go in. But if you just focused on hitting one nail into the table, you would have finished it much quicker, so you're more efficient, you did it properly, and you didn't half-ass anything. So it's basically like we can apply that to our lives in several ways. If you have so many things going on, nothing is being done effectively. And I know that's something that's been an issue with me. There's so many things I'm trying to do, but nothing ever gets done properly. So if you just focus on that one thing and then move on to the next, it'll probably be done much better. You probably would have learned more about it. So that is my first learning. So the second biggest learning from the podcast came from my interview with Ayush Jha, who's the founder and CEO of Clearco. And he talked about if he's doing something that he doesn't love, he's awful at it and he's very below average. But if he enjoys doing something, he can actually sink his teeth into it and push very, very hard to ensure that it becomes successful. And that makes a lot of sense, right? So if you start a podcast or you start a business and actually you don't really enjoy it, but you're doing it because society's telling you to do it, or you're doing it for different motives other than the fact that you actually love it, you're not going to stick with it through the long haul, and it'll just be a pain every single day, and you won't be as good as the person who's doing it who actually loves it. So what's the point? Why don't you just find something that you actually enjoy doing and push there? That's been a really important thing for me to take away, is if I start something and I find that I'm not enjoying it, I'm just going to stop. Because it doesn't make sense. If I don't want to do more research into it, what's the point? There's going to be somebody else who loves doing that. Let them do that. Why don't I just focus on doing what I really love? And podcasting is one of them, and there's a few other things. So just focus on the things that you love and enjoy doing, and the likelihood is that you'll be able to do it better than most people. My third learning came from Shobit Banga, who is the founder of Josh Talks. And he talked about a way to prioritize your life. Again, the focus theme comes in. And the way he prioritizes everything is that he thinks 5 years ahead, and then he sets a few goals that he wants to achieve in 5 years. And then he breaks that down into quarters. Okay, in 5 years, I want to have this become reality. And he gave the example of becoming very lean. So this quarter, in this 3-month period, what exactly do I need to do to get there? And then he works backwards from the 5-year, quarter. This is exactly what I need to achieve. And it's not fixed. He can change it along the way. If a goal changes, he can change it. But he says 5 years worked well for him because it sets something tangible enough in the long term that you can actually strive for. If it's a year down the line, it's a little bit tough to strive for it because you can be a bit short-termist. But if you look 5 years down the line, you can achieve incredible things by breaking it down into smaller. So I've done the same thing. One is the podcast, right? I'd love in 5 years for this to be a source of revenue and income for me. I'm not saying that it's going to be this year or next year, but I'm working backwards to make sure that this is something that I can actually earn a livelihood off of because I love doing it. So how do I make that happen? I'm working backwards. Okay, this month I need to start making sure videos and podcasts are more frequent and consistent because the subscriber numbers are growing. So I need to make sure that the content that the subscribers like is coming to them. And it seems like interviews are that thing. So I need to make sure that that's there every single week. and then break it down further. You can do that so many things with getting fit, with finding somebody that you want to get married to, or anything like that. You can set a 5-year goal and then just work backwards of what you need to do this quarter, and then you put in your notebook for the day what you need to exactly do that day to achieve the quarter's goals. So that's been really helpful for me in aligning what I want to do in the next 5 years. My next learning was from one of the most fun interviews that I've ever had. Again, I'm going to put the interview in the information box above. It was with Arman Sood, the co-founder of Sleepy Owl Coffee. And he talked about this story of how he had to get his initial round of coffee beans grinded. So he went to Starbucks to get it done because they didn't have a grinder at home. But Starbucks said, hey, look, we're not going to do this for you. This is not Starbucks coffee. So they literally just went home, printed out a sticker of Starbucks, taped it onto their plastic bag and said, it is Starbucks coffee. Please grind it for us. And that made me think a lot about thinking on your feet and not taking no for an answer. And that's the real learning of it. Just don't take no. If somebody says no, find a way to think outside of the box to get it done. No's happen to you a lot, especially if you're starting a podcast, right? A lot of people are busy. A lot of people aren't going to give you the time to do an interview. But if you can find a way to make sure that it's actually beneficial for them, and you think out of the box to separate yourself from the thousands of people that are sending them emails, you're going to stand out, and the chances are you're going to turn that no into a yes. So the main thing I took away from that interview was just don't take no for an answer. Find a way to get it done and be creative to get it done. And my last learning came from my most recent interview with Shamo, who is a coach to some of our Olympic athletes, was a previous coach on our Indian World Cup cricket teams of 2002 and 2006. And it really came in the form of meditation. And meditation has been something that's extremely difficult for me. You sit there and you get more anxious from the process. I don't know if this happens to you, but he kind of simplified the whole thing for me. If thoughts come in, that's fine. Just analyze that the thought has come in and don't worry about it. It's the point of meditation is not to not have thoughts. It's just to analyze the fact that you have thoughts and just to realize, oh, there's a thought, and let it happen. Just don't put any pressure onto it. And just the idea of sitting there for 10 minutes every day without a smartphone, without anything distracting you is hugely beneficial. Even if you don't get into this deep trance state, right? It's still really beneficial for you. And then he taught me 4 seconds breathe in through your nose and 8 seconds out. So if you just focus on counting, your mind is going to be focused on that. Yeah, thoughts are going to come in, but then you just say, okay, I have to get back to counting 4 in, 8 out. That has really simplified meditation for me. I think, looking online, I've looked at a lot of complex types of meditation, but this, just breathe and be aware of your breath. So thank you so much for tuning in to this kind of mini episode of what I've learned from the 30 interviews that I've done so far. And just to quickly recap it, I've learned about the importance and power of focus and the impact that focus can have on your life, making sure that you're doing things well. Secondly, I learned you have to love what you do or you're just not going to do it well. You're going to be worse than other people that are trying to do it. Third, prioritize your life in terms of 5 years down the line, what you want to achieve, and then break it down coming back into quarters. And then eventually down to the day, what you need to do. Fourth, don't take no for an answer. If somebody says no to you, find a creative way to turn that no into a yes. Think outside of the box. And fifth, meditation is actually simple. Don't overcomplicate it. Make it simple for you. Just sit there for 10 minutes, and even if nothing happens, super beneficial for you because you're away from your phone, you're away from your computer, and you're away from distraction. So I really hope you enjoyed this episode. Let me know if you want more of these kind of summary episodes. I definitely will be doing them. We'll be back to regular scheduled interviews from next week. So make sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Give the video a thumbs up, and see you guys in the next one.